Perfect. All right. First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming and joining us for this Q&A. I know the final 2 episodes of The Last Dance are coming on shortly, so we'll try to be brief, but ultimately your questions will drive the length of time that we're on the Zoom call. Before we get started, I do want to go over a couple updates for tournaments. I'm sure everybody has seen that New Hampshire has basically stated that none of their teams can come into or leave New Hampshire, and none of their tournaments in New Hampshire can host teams from out of state. Every one of our teams was going to a New Hampshire tournament, so that puts at least one. So that puts us in quite a pickle. So please check the tournament page because the New Hampshire tournaments have been canceled on there, and other tournaments have been added. Some of them require hotels, some of them don't. Anybody who had a tournament in New Hampshire the weekend of June 26th is going to go to the Maine State Championships in Waterville. And there's some other changes on there. Tying into that, if you had hotels that you had booked for that weekend at out-of-state tournaments, please make sure you cancel them so you don't get charged for it. There's a couple teams that I'm still looking to add a tournament or two because they've lost like half their tournaments. So I'm trying to backfill those. But right now, I expect there's going to be more tournaments released in the coming weeks once we get the all clear. Summer League, currently the schedules with the coaches and other programs that are participating in the league. Those responses are due into me today, and then I will compile all the complete schedule and get it to the umpires so that we can get umpires assigned to each game. Right now, actually, I think I'm only waiting on one program to send back their input. So we're in a pretty good shape there. After that, like I said, it'll go to umpires for umpire booking, and then it'll be publicized. So I'm hoping within a week we'll have it publicized. I know that I'm probably going to take quite a few games when my team's not playing, and I suspect Mr. Diz Roberts is going to help out like he always is known to do when he's not coaching. So we'll get umpires booked as best we can. Prior to this, I had 4 questions that were submitted via email, and I kind of want to go over those right first, and then that might lead to follow-on questions. So I see right now, just got a couple chats from Eric and Kim. Okay. So the first question was, how are the girls and their parents going to travel out of state, and when they are required to quarantine for 14 days upon returning to Maine? It's a good question, and I'm going to be politely blunt. I think everybody would appreciate that. Ultimately, my role as a director is to create opportunities. I do that by signing up for tournaments that are likely to be played in safe environments, creating a supplemental league, which will add 10 to 20 games per team in a safe environment, scheduling scrimmages in a safe environment, etc. Your job as parents and players is to determine if the opportunities that I have created in this tough situation are in the best interest of your family. If you determine they aren't, then just let your coaches know that your daughters won't be participating in fill in the blank, and we'll look to get fill-in players. Quite honestly, we're a nation divided right now. 50% of the population is very concerned about the virus. 50% is not nearly as concerned. So it stands to reason that ratio probably trickles down to our program itself too. So I'm not trying to get involved in any of that from my position. I have to do what's in the best interest of the entire program. Will the quarantine be relaxed this summer? I don't know. I hope so, but I can't make plans for 2 to 3 months out based on unknown information. The biggest thing for me is I have to book tournaments well ahead of time. If I don't, they get full. And then if the quarantine is lifted and we don't have tournaments scheduled, we're screwed, right? So I can't do it reactively. I have to be proactive, and then we'll see what happens in the next month or so. Question 2 is, while Maine is only at 1,600 cases, or 1,700 now, I believe, and 70 deaths, Hartford County alone, where Windsor, Connecticut is located, has over 7,700 cases and almost 1,000 deaths, making it a dangerous area to travel to. That's not really a question there. It's more numbers followed by an opinion, but I'll address it nonetheless. Yes, Windsor was a hotspot early on. I'm a numbers guy, as most people know. What the statement failed to state was that Connecticut's population is significantly higher than Maine's. So 98% of the people in Connecticut have not tested positive, which is pretty much in line with Maine's numbers if you look at it from a numbers perspective. Even more important than that, though, is the numbers in recent weeks have declined considerably. And given our first tournament there is about 2 months away, I would hope that it would continue to decline going forward. And lastly, I've seen the safety plan for Fast Pitch Nation, and it's significant. In fact, I modeled our NEGSL safety plan after the Fast Pitch Nation plan. They're going to start hosting tournaments there the last weekend of May. I suspect if they have any issues whatsoever, they'll halt the tournaments, and this discussion will be a moot point. But going back to question number one, I can't wait to book tournaments. It just simply doesn't work that way. I have to book them now, or else they get full, and then we're caught with our pants down. And we can reevaluate as we get closer. But right now, that's why they're booked the way they are. Question 3, in reference to the NEGSL, you have indicated that games will begin as soon as the all clear is given. Is someone from the state going to officially authorize when the league can commence? Yes. In fact, we've already received confirmation the state feels youth sports falls under phase 2 of the reopening. When we proceed to phase 2, that's when we'll start. It's currently slated for 6/1, as is our schedule. If it gets delayed, then we'll move to the right accordingly. Question 4, have we determined that girls can actually play with masks on? If you are physically active and talking, you can get short of breath quite easily. This is a tough one to answer. Even Dr. Fauci has flip-flopped on the mask conundrum recently. The NEGSL safety plan, which again mimics Fast Pitch Nation and USA Softball, does not make masks mandatory for participants during their time on the field. When they are in the dugout or not playing, they should have the mask on. And the River Rats will be providing gator masks for our travel players. So those are the questions that I have received up to this point, and those are kind of my answers. Those are my answers, not kind of. I am certain that there are probably other questions based on maybe my responses or just questions in general, and the chat feature is wide open for you guys to start submitting those questions as you see fit. Does everybody know how to use the chat feature? All right. If you don't know how to use the chat feature, somebody said my name.
I'll ask a question.
Okay.
Just real quick, if some of the parents haven't reached out to us personally and reached out to you, would you obviously let us know if there's any concerns there?
Oh, absolutely. That was one of the things when we had our coaches meeting a couple of weeks back, that I wanted the coaches to put out to parents and players, if they had concerns, to please voice them to the coaches about returning to play. And I haven't heard any specifically. So at this point in time, I think, sorry, my dog's dropping his toys all over the family room. I think that there's going to be a level of anxiety. I've talked about this with my 18U girls. The last couple of months, we've been given information that certainly has people on edge. And I think that especially for young ladies, for all of us, it's going to be a little different getting out there, especially initially. So there's going to be a level of anxiety, and I know that the coaches are aware of that, and I believe that the players are. And I just want the players and the parents, if there is that level of anxiety, to please let me know, let your coaches know, so that we are aware of that, and so that we can foster good habits that reduce the anxiety. I mean, I'm going to read the safety plan to you guys here in a minute, and I'm going to share it with you on the screen. But for those, I'll go through every item. But ultimately, everything that we're trying to do is to get the girls out there, but to do it in a safe manner, as safe as we can possibly do it. Yeah, so honestly, right now, I have a question as to will there be any fields available for practices? honestly, my sole focus right now is getting fields for games. If we have openings, right now I've reached out to every rec director and every little league director, probably in the bottom half of Maine, from central Maine down. I've reached out to everybody, especially leagues that have canceled their seasons. So we're absolutely looking for fields that we can practice on as well. So hopefully soon we'll have some of that information. So right now, good question. The schedule that I have out there, we've got fields at St. Joe's, Doran, Alfred. Alfred, Maine has a field that we're going to be using. The Legacy actually, basically, it's their field that they pay to have service, or pay the town to let them use it. So Mike Moulton has been generous enough to offer that field up. We're working on a field in Messabesic. We're working on basically fields all over the state, South Portland, not all over the state, all over the southern half of the state. But in Maine, I know initially when I put that NEGSL out there, it mentioned Londonderry. Londonderry is obviously out. So we're mainly focused on, I'd say, central Maine and down for fields. Yep. So 10U. So when I sent out the draft schedule for 10U, I got two questions back to back about 10U. So when I sent out the draft schedule for 10U, it was only our team and the house team. Since that time, I've had interest reached out to me by Thunder wants to join now, and Gorham Little League is mentioned putting in a house team. So we'd be up to 4 teams. So you guys wouldn't be doing back-to-back or double headers against the same team every day. To answer your question, yes, there's enough girls at the 10U level. And I'm drinking a Diet Dr. Pepper, just so nobody thinks I'm drinking a beer. All right. So the safety plan. Let me see. So one more question before I go to. Sure, Kim. Do you have a feel for start time? Sounds like some of the fields are off the beaten path. So we're looking at 6 p.m. for most start times. St. Joe's, we'd like to do double headers there, so 5 and 7. But those times can be shifted. I know the Alfred one, if you got games there, that's a pretty good haul for some folks who are in the Scarborough area, South Portland area. That's, even for me, especially in the Wyndham area, it's a good haul, and not to mention the Cherryfield area. We have some flexibility there, especially with Alfred. That's probably our really, Meg? That's probably our furthest one away. So we do have flexibility. If we need to move them to 6:30, I'll move them to 6:30. Right now, the rules state that we have games for 12U and below, 6 innings or 2 hours, and for 14U and above, 7 innings or 2 hours. But based upon what I'm going to outline here in the safety plan, that might shift to 1 hour and 45 minutes. So especially for double headers, we have time to sanitize the dugout before the next team comes in. All right, so I'm going to share this document somewhere. Share screen. We can come back to questions here in a minute. All right, so get out of here. These are the safety plan, and again, these are based on the USA Softball's Back to the Ballpark recommendations, along with the plan that I saw for Fast Pitch Nation. And I'll read these to you guys. 1, if you're not feeling well, please stay home. Obviously, kind of goes without saying, right? 2, no spectators will be allowed near the dugouts or backstop area. This is to ensure we stay well below the 50 people limit in the field of play area. 3, spectators will be allowed, maintaining 6 feet social distancing in the outfield areas beyond the fence and playing area. Spectators are encouraged to bring their own chairs by using bleachers. 4, spectators are encouraged to wear masks. Participants, players, umpires, and coaches are allowed to wear masks, but players, when in the game, are discouraged from wearing masks. 5, depending upon the size of the dugouts, the number of individuals in the dugout will vary, but they must maintain 6 feet social distancing. Remaining players and coaches should maintain social distancing behind the dugout and down the fence line outside the field of play. So if you can envision, you got 3 girls and a coach in the dugout, and the rest of the girls and coaches are basically spread out, probably in the batting order, I would say, down the, let's say, left field line, fence line if they have a third base dugout, and first base line if they have first base dugout. No pop-up tents are allowed on site, no team coolers, no players at pregame meeting, and coaches must maintain social distancing. No lineup cards will be exchanged, no sunflower seeds on the premises. I also have to add gum to that, which is just going to kill me, but we got to do what we got to do. Team huddles must maintain social distancing. Balls will be sanitized every half inning, and this will be the responsibility of the team that was most recently on defense. No sharing of helmets. A coach with protective gloves will be responsible for picking up the bats after an at-bat concludes. Essentially, normally the girl who's in the hole, not on deck, but the next one is usually responsible for grabbing the bat. That will no longer be the case. If bats are used by multiple players, they must be sanitized by a coach prior to use by the next batter. What is going on here? So if you have a team bat, then coaches might want to stagger their lineup so that they don't have the same batters who use the same bats back to back. Where was I? If any conferences are held, either defensively or offensively, all participants of the conference will maintain social distancing. Base coaches will be required to maintain social distancing from base runners and defensive players. No home plate team celebrations should a player hit a home run. Home plate umpire will be either behind the pitcher or deeper in the umpire box to allow for social distancing. No post-game handshakes, and dugouts will be sanitized by the departing team upon conclusion of the game, and each team will be responsible for bringing sanitizing equipment and material. A return to play waiver is currently being developed and will be required prior to a participant's participation in NGSL games. The NGSL safety plan is a living document and will be updated as needed depending upon direction provided by USA Softball and the main governing bodies. So I know that's a lot there, but if you think about it, it's really not that much to ask of our teams to get out there and play. With some players still working, who could we reach out to? So I was going to be right in the field. I would reach out to your coach firsthand. I think Bella. And if your coach can't help you out, reach out to me afterwards, and maybe we'll see if we can figure something out. There's going to be a safety plan. The safety plan, once it's finally approved by our lawyer, will be uploaded to our website. Right now, I just added the base coaches one. I had this, it was at 20, and she had approved that, but I added the base coaches one based upon discussions with my 18U team, and Miss Anna Gilbert brought up that one, and I added it, so we'll get that to the lawyer for approval. Ultimately, it'll flow through Maine government, and they'll have to approve it as well. So that's kind of how we've been running it in the last couple of weeks. But you're welcome. Are there any other questions? You guys are awfully quiet. I expected some more questions.
Travis, my wife has a question.
Okay.
Are you seriously putting me on the spot?
She's on the spot.
So for the girls are embarrassed. So in terms of the no pop-ups, what about for fields that don't have dugouts and during, like mid-July, August, will there be an exception made to actually have like the pop-ups on top, at least covering the players?
Yeah, the pop-up, that pop-up rule is mainly for fans. And it's mainly so that fans don't congregate under a pop-up and don't maintain social distancing.
Okay.
So yes, to your question, yeah, we'll that'll be okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Good question. Yeah, DJ, they can still cheer and chant. I mean, folks, I know when I was putting this together, I was like, this sucks. But if it's the alternative of we adhere to the safety plan or we don't play softball this summer, I think that's a no-brainer. So see if we get the okay from the governor. No worries. So right now we're working on phase 2. We're basing everything off phase 2 of the governor's reopening plan. So we would be looking, Janet, at June 1st through, the schedule is June 1st through the last weekend in July, first weekend in August. So almost about 2 months, but I set it up that way because I wasn't overly confident that we'd get the okay to enter phase 2 on June 1st. And I wanted to get as much opportunity as possible. Also, if we actually do have tournaments, Maine State Championship, the Southern Maine Diamond Challenge, our tournaments, etc., we have games scheduled for the weekend. Those games are going to get wiped out, right? Because the tournaments are our priority. So that answers that question. Yes, Addison, it is a living document subject to change. Absolutely. Kathy and Haley, you guys are just smiling like. Mark, yeah, I would. Yes, I've shared this with Cleveland Brown, who's the commissioner, and Jeff Marshall, who runs the state tournaments. Every tournament in Maine will have some sort of safety plan. I think it's the only way they're going to get by off to actually hold tournaments is to have a safety plan. And the biggest part is you can have a plan, but if you don't adhere to it, then the plan's it's not worth what it's written on. So ultimately, they'll have a plan, and hopefully they will adhere to it as we will. Okay, how will you maintain less than 50 people? So you've got 2 teams, right? 12, 13 players on a team. So you're talking 25 players, 3 or 4 coaches on a team. So that gets you up to 31 coaches. So 2 umpires, you're looking at 33. So on the playing field itself, we'll be well below the 33 or below the 50. The issue is then allowing spectators. And initially, I kind of put out to the coaches that, hey, be prepared that we might not have spectators at all. And then as I had more conversations with my counterparts around New England and looked at some of the stuff that was coming out from across the country, if you grid the field out, the whole field, including the fence area behind all the fields, there's a significant amount of square footage that could be utilized for hundreds of people, right? So we figured that we could put the third base fans in left field, the first base fans in right field, and all of those fans will be able to easily maintain social distancing. So it's not just 50 people at one site. You got to break it down into 50 people amongst a certain set of square footage, right? So that's our interpretation. Maybe it won't be that way when it gets to the governor. I don't know. Things are fluid. Let's put it that way, right? So right now that's our plan, but if okay, I'm glad. Thanks, Tony. No, absolutely not. When you're with your parents and you're not in the field, no, I'm not going to say you're not our responsibility, because ultimately you are, because you wear RATS gear and you're part of our program and you're part of our family. But ultimately, your parents are, like I said before, right at the very beginning. We create opportunities, and your parents and you will make the determination of how you handle those opportunities. So that'll be up to your parents, Addison. Oh, I'm sorry, that was privately. Are these rules similar to what will occur at tournaments? Yes, absolutely. So like I said, these rules are based off in every tournament, or the Fast Pitch Nation tournament, which several of our teams are scheduled to go to. And I absolutely envision that every tournament will have some rules that pertain specifically to the COVID-19 pandemic. Nothing, Leanne, come on. You just want to get outside. Are you still taking teams from the 10U division? If so, oh, I'm sorry. That's okay. Yep. So essentially, the only place we're having double headers is at St. Joe's, and currently, right, because they only field that we have that has lights. So there is actually an area in St. Joe's behind the left field fence with batting cages and et cetera. That's where the teams would have to warm up. The link for we'll still accept 10U teams, and the link for that is actually already on our website. The season has been extended, yes, for USA softball, USSSA. They extended the season until the end of August. Normally, UTRIP, specifically UTRIP, ends the beginning August 1st. So you get your insurance from August 1st to July 31st. And this year they've extended it till August 31st. So yes, the seasons have been extended.